Today, we're diving into the world of warehouse automation, and specifically, the big matchup that's defining its future, the automated guided vehicle, the AGV, versus the autonomous mobile robot, the AMR.
So you might be thinking a robot is a robot, right? But when it comes to warehouses, the answer is a huge no. They might look kind of similar, these machines just gliding around a factory floor, but how they think and how they move, well, they're worlds apart. And getting that difference is everything if you want to understand where logistics is headed. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big problem that these robots are actually built to solve. Then we'll properly introduce our two main players, put them head to head, look at what makes one so much smarter, and finally, talk about what this all means for the people working right alongside them.
So first things first, why are we even talking about robots? Well, it's because traditional warehouses have this massive, almost invisible problem that costs a ton of time and money. It's a concept from lean manufacturing called motion waste. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Just picture a worker in a massive warehouse. A huge chunk of their day, maybe even most of it, is just walking. Miles and miles of walking back and forth, just to grab one thing from here and take it over there. It's not just inefficient, it's exhausting for people. And that wasted travel is the number one thing automation is trying to fix.
Now, solving that problem is a serious investment. Upgrading to a smart warehouse can cost you anywhere from $150 to $200 per square foot. If you have a warehouse that's, say, 500,000 square feet, well, you do the math. The price tag gets huge, fast. So you can see why choosing the right robot technology is a high-stakes decision.
Okay, so you've decided to make the leap. Now you've got to choose. And this is where we meet our two contenders, which really represent two completely different ways of thinking about automation. First up, we've got the AGV, the automated guided vehicle. This is the old guard, the traditional workhorse. It follows a simple, set path. We're talking literally following a magnetic stripe taped to the floor or a wire buried underneath it. The key here is that it's fixed. Just like a train, it can't get off its track. Period. On the other side of the ring is the AMR, the autonomous mobile robot. Now, this is the new kid on the block, and it's a whole lot smarter. It doesn't need any tracks. Instead, it uses a whole suite of sensors and smart software to build its own map of the warehouse. It moves freely, figuring things out as it goes. So it's less like a train on a track and way more like a car with a really, really good GPS that reroutes you around traffic.
And that right there is the core difference. It's all about what happens when something unexpected gets in the way. Let's say a pallet or a box falls into an aisle. The AGV comes along, sees the box, and it just stops. It's stuck. It'll just sit there, holding up the whole workflow until a person comes and moves the box. The AMR, on the other hand, sees the box, understands it's a temporary obstacle, and in an instant, it calculates a new path to get around it. It doesn't stop, it adapts.
And that ability to adapt, that agility, is really where the AMR shines. So let's put them side by side and see how this actually plays out in the real world. Okay, let's break this down. When we're talking about path planning, the AGV is stuck on its one route. The AMR is looking at all the options and finding the quickest way, right now. For avoiding obstacles, well, we know that story. The AGV stops dead, the AMR just goes around. Even for something as basic as picking up a pallet, an AGV needs that pallet placed perfectly. An AMR can actually see if it's a little crooked and adjust itself to pick it up anyway. So what's the bottom line? AGVs are fine for simple, repetitive jobs in an environment that never, ever changes. AMRs are built for the chaos of the real world, where things are always dynamic. Now, you'd think the smarter robot would have a much higher cost. But this is where it gets interesting. That flexibility means AMRs can deliver a return on your investment in as little as 6 months. How? It's pretty simple, actually. You don't have to shut down your entire operation for weeks to rip up the floors and install tracks. You just turn the AMR on. It maps the building and gets to work, sometimes on day one. So we know AMRs are smarter. We know they're more flexible. But what's the magic behind it? Let's pop the hood and see how the AI actually gives them that edge. It's really a constant 4-step loop. First, it sees the world, using all its sensors. We're talking LiDAR, 3D cameras, the whole shebang. Second, its onboard AI brain takes all that data and analyzes it, like right now. Third, it uses that analysis to build and constantly update a live map of the facility in its head. And finally, it takes action, choosing the smartest path. And this loop just repeats over and over. See, think, act, repeat. And all that intelligence has another huge benefit. It makes them way safer to work with. Because they can see and predict what's happening around them,
They're designed to work with people, not just stop for them. They can navigate smoothly around a human coworker, which creates a much more natural and safe environment for everybody, all while meeting really strict safety standards. And that brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole conversation. What does this mean for the actual people on the warehouse floor? See, this isn't really a story about robots replacing people. It's about changing how they work together. The future here is collaborative. I love this quote from our source material. Humans work alongside robots to pick up the shortcomings of each side. It just nails it. Think about it. Robots are fantastic at the boring, repetitive, long-distance travel. Humans are amazing at things that need dexterity and smarts, like grabbing an awkwardly shaped item off a shelf. You let the robots do the walking, and you let the humans do the thinking and the picking. It's the best of both worlds.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, instead of a worker walking for miles all day, they pretty much stay in one area. The system sends an AMR directly to them, right to the exact shelf they need. The person uses their skill to grab the right item, they place it on the robot, and poof, the AMR handles the long trip to the shipping station. And that motion waste we talked about at the beginning, it's just gone.
So the big takeaway here is that AMRs don't replace people, they augment them. They take over the most boring, physically draining part of the job, and that frees up human workers to focus on the more complex, higher value stuff that actually requires a brain. It's not about getting rid of people, it's about making their jobs better, safer, and way more productive.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've designed these machines to be smart, to learn, and to adapt to the world around them. As we start working more and more closely with them, the real question becomes, as these robots are learning from their environment, what are we going to learn from them? Thanks for watching.